Hi, everybody. Welcome to this Cambridge Photography Week live stream with Campkins and OM System. My name is David. I think there might be some slight technical problems because lots of red flashy things came up when I entered the stream here today, and there's 0 people on the stream. So I think perhaps we might not be recording. But we're going to go ahead and do this anyway because this is all going to be saved afterwards on the Campkins Cameras and Cambridge Photography Week YouTube channel. So despite the technical errors that we've just encountered, I'm going to see if I can show you some things about OM System and about the macro capabilities of OM System. So we are fortunate enough to be the headline sponsor for Cambridge Photography Week and the Cambridge Photography Show with Campkins Cameras, which is fantastic stuff. However, that does mean that there's loads to do during the week, and it's not just with us as well. So there are loads of different people doing live streams and workshops and things during the week and at the weekend. So make sure you pop along and see us on the Saturday to see loads of extra things. So, but for now, despite the fact that whilst I am live to nobody. So I hope you're enjoying this afterwards. I've got 1 viewer, perhaps now. I hope you're enjoying it afterwards. And I had a slight technical problem when I first started. I was going to show you a presentation on the macro lenses from OM System. Sadly, that doesn't seem to be working at the moment with this particular stream. So you'll have to come and see me on Saturday at the Cambridge Photography Show to find out what they're all about and play with them in real life. What I do want to do, however, is show you a demonstration of some of the things that we've got in terms of how they work. So I'm going to show you an OM1 with a 90mm macro lens attached to it. We're going to have a little look at some of the functionality of that very, very quickly. And then we're going to also look at that in conjunction with OM Capture software, providing that works due to the tech issues this afternoon even. Maybe it's because I don't know my timings, that's why. So what I'll do first of all is I'm just going to try and get my connection up and running. Let's see if I can share that screen with you and you can see exactly what's going on. Let's see if this will work. There we go. There is my screen, and hopefully everything on the right side of it is fantastic. Now, I do just need to turn my camera on properly because of the way we were doing things. It's a little bit different. So let's see. Hi, Richard. Richard's the only person in the chat at the moment. So, Richard, open the door. Let some people in. Right. So, I'm going to just make some adjustments to the camera. There we go. And the software that I'm about to show you is called OM Capture. It's tethering software. It comes free from OM System. And you don't have to pay for it. It's free. And effectively allows you to tether your camera to your laptop or your computer. You don't have to touch it, and you can control everything from your camera. Now, I appear to have got the wrong cable in by the looks of things, so bear with me. I'm just going to reset that. So let me pop this into a full screen. There we go. Makes it a little bit easy when I start sliding around the studio. That's it. And then hopefully we will see some magic come back in. Here we go. Camera is connecting. Oh, you don't want to see me like that. Let's see me like, oh, not like that at all. Let's see if we can't make this better. There we go. Lots of strange things happening. Okay, so what we've got here is the OM System OM Capture software. You can't see much at the moment, but I'm going to bring up a live view of the screen just here. There we go. So that's what my camera is seeing at the moment. It's just pointed at some flowers in. I've got like a cactus bed thing with some alpine flowers in, and it's kind of pointed at that, and we're going to move it around a little bit and we'll see what's going on in there. I'm going to full screen it actually, so we'll take that away so you don't need to worry about seeing me. You can see a much better, bigger view of that. Now, one of the greatest things about using OM Capture is that I can use it with the macro lens and not have to touch the camera. So if I was to touch the camera, then obviously any tiny movement that I make here is going to be huge lens side. So being able to not touch the camera is really, really good. Now you say, that might be fantastic if you're autofocusing, but what if you want to manually focus? Well, there are some really, really cool tricks that we can use in there as well. So let's just have a quick look at what our OM Capture software can do for us. So basic software, we've got some file settings. At the moment, I'm going to save all of this to my laptop. I could save it to the memory card if I wanted to as well. One or the other or both is absolutely fine. And then but in this instance, I've got it saved to the computer and I've made a folder called OM Capture, which hopefully will work later on when I want to drag some images over and show those to you. And you can change all those and you can create new folders and things. There's a really nice slick workflow. You could even have this set if you're tethering and you want all of those files to go directly over to Lightroom. You could do that as well, simply by making this your Lightroom catalog folder, and all those images will instantly appear into there, and you can have that connected to your Lightroom or other editing software as well. Then we're coming down to the kind of main aspect of things here. This is the super control panel. It's very much the same as how we would see it in, let me just move some things around, how we would see it in the camera. On the back of the camera, when you press the OK button, you get kind of a panel of quick menu items to choose from. And within that, you've got things like your focusing options, your flash options, your white balance, different things, drive modes, all sorts of things like that. And I've got that kind of panel set out here. Now, the really great thing about OM Capture is that I can actually customize this by clicking on these sort of 4 horizontal lines at any stage through the front sort of top of the toolbar here. These 4 lines will take me directly to the settings, the deep settings that I need to make changes on. And if I click customize super control panel down here at the bottom, I can add or remove different things as I want them in there. So I can make this as big or as little as I want. We can go to default settings. That puts pretty much everything in, with all the movie settings as well. Or we can go back to custom, which is pretty much just the way I like it laid out. And it's a very personal thing as well. So, you know, you can add those things in as you need. That's pretty much set up for me. And it's also here telling me what mode I'm in on the camera. So what exposure mode. So I'm in M for manual exposure mode, but because I've got my ISO set to auto, I have control over the exposure compensation slider as well. So if I was to set my ISO into a fixed limit of 200, then my exposure compensation disappears, obviously, because I've fixed all the areas of my exposure with my aperture shutter and ISO. So that goes away. But using the auto ISO as a little buffer allows me to create a difference in these settings here. Now, at the moment, the exposure setting is actually not really applicable either, because I'm going to be using flash, which when you're using something like the 90mm macro, because it works so close, and we're looking at 6.7 centimeters working distance. At that kind of distance, you need some extra light going on if you haven't got a superbly bright natural light. So I'm using a flash with a diffuser in here. I'm using the FL700WR from Olympus. It's a great little flash, really, really nice output, super speedy on the recycle, and works really, really sort of easily and automatically with things like the stacking and the high res shots and things like that. It's all automatic in terms of what it does. You don't need to do any extra programming. So we've got our exposure compensation, which will allow us to get a bit of ambient light in there and stuff like that. But ultimately, because the camera has detected that there is a flash on, it's going to give me 200 in the auto level anyway. If I was to disable the flash there, oops, let's put that back, make that a bit bigger so we can see it. Then my ISO is going to flex as it needs to properly, but with the flash detected, it's going to sit at 200, which is quite nice. Now, oops, keep clicking and closing that. Let's reopen that again. Now, with the settings as they are, see this little white bar underneath? That's the meter reading. So that's not my exposure compensation reading. That's just the meter telling me that I will be underexposed if I take a shot now. But that's not including the flash that's going to output. So if we were to change these settings here, if I go to 250th of a second and I bring it down to 1/4 of a second, you see now that my exposure meter is jumping up a little bit to tell me, yeah, you're going to be a bit brighter. That's looking better. And as we go even further along, then that's going to jump up even further into the pluses. But all of that is talking to me and telling me that's not with the flash involved. So because I've got the flash involved, I really do want to be shooting at the maximum flash sync speed, which is 250th of a second. That's all it will let me do because it's detected the flash anyway, so I can't go any higher. So I kind of ignore, whoops, I kind of have to ignore that light meter reading just under there. Now, one of the big things that people talk to me about when the 90mm macro lens was announced was, why is it only an f3.5 lens? Well, if I click on my aperture rating here, actually the fastest or widest that aperture can now go is f5. We don't even see the f3.5 part of that aperture range, and that's because I've got the lens in the S macro limit position, which has given me 2 times magnification. Okay, well, up to 2 times as I need to use it. And that 2 times will come in at 6.7 centimeters working distance from the lens. But as a result, 2 times or S macro only allows me to go to f5 at the widest. Now, crazily, I'll never use that anyway, because the depth of field at f5, unless I'm shooting vertically above a piece of paper, is nothing. It's fractions of a millimeter. So actually, I'm probably going to shoot more like f11. Now, a lot of people will say, hang on a minute, David, we quite often hear you say, don't shoot narrower than f8 on these MFT lenses if you want to get the best quality, you know, only do it if you have to. And that's very true, with the exception of the 90mm, because it's kind of been built with that in mind, and does allow us to go a little bit narrower. And I have shot successfully up to f16 and still got quite good results. But today, I think I'm going to leave it at f11. So at f11, we've got autofocus initiated. The problem is, with all these natural settings allowing me to use the flash, this scene is really, really dark. I can't see what I'm doing. I can't make a compositional frame. So we have to use something called night vision or night live view, which is down here. In the camera, it's also called night vision. And if you're using an OMD previous to the OM1, it would be called live view boost. We can switch that on here. And that's just going to give us slightly lower resolution, but a brightened view of what's going on. So this is not a what you see is what you get view. It is simply helping us to compose the image. Now, if I was to move this backwards and forwards, you'll see there that flower at the front is just about in and out of focus. It's very, very easily in and out of focus. So I can try and autofocus here and bring that into focus, but we may be a bit too close, but we'll come on to that as we go to the focusing options. So working my way back through the super control panel, when we're shooting macro, it's important to decide if we are using flash, what metering mode we're going to use. At this stage, we're kind of using evaluative. We could use center weighted. That should help the flash automatically give us the best output, because the flash has been set to TTL, so it's pretty much in auto flash. It's going to talk to the camera and decide how much power to output to give us a good exposure based on what we ask for here and what we ask for here. Sorry, not what we asked for here. What we asked for here and what we ask for in flash compensation down here. So this is exposure compensation. That's our ambient light. Let's put it back down to 0. And this is our flash compensation down here. So we can add flash in to compensate against the TTL or automatic flash that's given out by the camera and flash combined. So if the flash releases an output and we think, wow, that's a little bit too bright, we can take some off it without actually playing around with the flash. We just go into the minus compensation or the plus compensation. Nice and easy. And we'll have a play around with that as we take some shots. Your white balance is pretty much good in auto if you're using flash, because the camera detects it. Your picture mode is going to be the style. So you've got muted, vivid, natural, etc. And then all of the art modes. Now, if you're using OM capture and you click on any of the art modes, if you're using the night view boost or the live view boost, you will not see a resulting image to show you what that's going to look like. But if you turn that off, then let's brighten this up a little bit. Then you will see a resulting image. Let me just make some changes so we can actually see what we're doing. So this is, you can see that this is vignetted by that, where are we? Art 6, Art 11, oh, crazy, Art 10. So you can see that resulting filter if you use those filters, but if you're using night view boost or night vision, you won't see that. Now, before we take a picture with crazy Art 10, let's move it back into natural 3. Stabilization is set to auto. Previously, I would have said switch it off, but on a lens like the 90mm, there's no harm in keeping it on, whether you're on a tripod or not, because I am on a tripod today. If you're hand holding it, definitely keep that on. Flash compensation, as we already went over. The drive modes. Now, if we start to shoot a focus stack of these flowers, then this will automatically change. Some things will pulse in yellow when we add a feature on to tell us that they've changed, but we're going to shoot a single shot as it is now. If I was to switch on the high res mode, you'll see these things pulse up in yellow. So that changed, and that changed, just to show me that by using that feature, these things have to change. So it has turned the stabilization off because high res mode needs to move the sensor. It's put it into a silent drive, and it's offered me an 80 million fine JPEG, 80 million pixel fine JPEG plus a RAW file. And if I switch that off now, they will pulse again just to tell me that they've reverted back to what I asked for before. And we're going to save in large superfine JPEG today. We're not going to shoot in RAW, but you could shoot in any combination of those through there as well. So once all those are set, you've got a bit of information down here about what gear you've got on, the 90mm, the battery percentage, whether or not you're saving to SD or PC, the amount of video space left on the card. And if you press info, it gives you a bit more detail about slot 1 and slot 2. Now, slot 2, I don't have a card in there, so it's not giving me any information about it. And then this little gray icon here that says PC with some arrows across there will flash when it's transmitting information from the camera to the PC or laptop. So what I want to do here is I just want to take a quick shot. So we're in autofocus. I'm going to come down here. I'm going to select a single point from this option down here. So here we can choose the AF target modes. With the arrow, you've got all single, small, cross, middle, large, or magnify frame to set the AF target. I'm just going to use a single. Now I can move that around if I drag. So click and drag and I can move it around. So let's see if we can drag it onto there. There we go. We grab focus on that one. Let's see if we can, oops, drag it into the background. No, it doesn't really want to do that. Let's try and focus on this one here because that looks like it's standing out. Look how much depth of field we've got on the end of that tiny little flower. Absolutely nothing. So let's take a shot here just with our autofocus. These are our shooting modes down here. Now what you can do is you can use the space bar to halfway press, and you can use the enter key to take your shot. Okay, and then when that's done, that'll pop up in the rec view here when it sends it over, and it'll say, there you go, that's your final shot that's been taken. It doesn't seem to want to do it today, but it normally would do that. So let's release the halfway press. Oh, I think it's not doing it because my software has crashed. Let's just have a little start. There we go. And then it's bringing up our image here. Now, what you can see is these are different colors. That's quite obvious. But remember, here we're using night vision or live view boost. And here is the actual view of what we're getting, the true color and everything else. Now, that will have popped up into my OM capture software. So I'm just going to go ahead and find that on another screen, and I'm going to drag it over to this one here. Let me bring it open, and then we can have a better look at it. So let's bring that over to this screen here. And then this is the very end of that tiny little flower that we were looking at. And what's represented there is probably about 0.5 millimeter in terms of width and diameter. But we're getting the true natural look of that here anyway. So let's just get rid of that for a moment. What we need to think about is that we're shooting at f5. So let's bring that back up to f11. Let's shoot, and we had a lot of ambient light in there because we were shooting at a 20th of a second. Now we're making some more reasonable adjustments. We've got f11 for some depth of field. We can actually see what that looks like by using the depth of field preview button down here. So all the views that you see through the lens, through your viewfinder or the back screen or in OM capture, everything you see in terms of depth of field is the depth of field of whatever lens you're using as though it was wide open. So the depth of field we're seeing here is f5. If I click and hold on the depth of field preview button, we'll actually see what our real depth of field would be if it was stopped down to f11 when we shoot. So the reason why we're always seeing it wide open is so that loads of light gets into the camera and our view isn't impaired by that. And then we can stop it down to see what we'd actually see when we release the exposure. So now I've set this to f11 and 250th of a second, nice and quick, in case there's any movement. We're going to see a very different shot to this one because this has all that ambient light in it. Let's take that ambient light away and go ahead and take another shot. There we go. See, that's now quite dark. Now, what I would say then is that we need to make some adjustments to our exposure compensation. So in our exposure compensation, we can add a stop of flash, take that shot again. And, oh, I do beg your pardon. The reason why we're not seeing this properly is because my flash has deset itself to manual. So let's try that again without the flash compensation. It wasn't dark because the flash wasn't compensating. It was dark because the flash wasn't set to TTL. It was set to manual. So let's do a halfway press again, and then take the shot. There we go. So, and then let's bring that new image over. Number 4, that's fine. We'll do that. There we go. So now we've got considerably more depth of field than we had in the first one, but still not a great amount. And this is kind of where macro has its major challenges, because we really want to see a lot more depth of field than that. So we'll come on to that, though. We'll kind of find out. Let's see if we can't find a slightly better subject matter. I might go a bit quiet as I move away from my microphone. Don't worry, I've not left you. Let's see if we can find something a bit more colourful and a bit more. Everybody that knows me knows I'm a bit of a geek, so we're going to go a bit superhero-y on this one. So let's try and take a photograph of some crystals. Right, let's just get a little bit higher. There we go. Right, some crystals actually that me and the kids grew during the summer holidays on the windowsill, like a big blue piece of project. Kids lost interest, and I took them for my photography. So this is the greatest thing. Let's see if we can drag our focus point over. And let's see if we can get some focus. Oh, I might be a bit too close for it there. Let me just see. If I pop my, this is the best way to find out if you are too close for something when you're setting in a macro, particularly if you're in S macro, because you've got a very strict limit between 2 positions in which the lens can focus, is to just pop it into manual focus through the clutch. So as they say, I'm going to pop the clutch and I'm going to go through the focus range to see if I actually can focus. Now I can focus, which is great. So I have to put that down to a lack of light not allowing us to focus. Now, because of that, sometimes you'll find that it is so dark because we're so close to something that autofocus is a challenge. So what we can do is that we can put that autofocus into manual focus, but we still don't want to touch the camera. So we're going to use these micro adjustment arrows down here. This one side on the left is going to bring the focus closer towards me. Very good, very nice. And then this one is going to take it further away from me. And it's quite self-explanatory that the bigger the arrows, the more focusing adjustments are made on each time. So if we go back to this one here, and then we want to just go back in a little bit, tiny little micro adjustments to get that nice big crystal in the background. And if I click on my depth of field preview, it gives me an idea of roughly how much I'm going to get. I still want to go a little bit more there. And then we get the depth of field preview. And hopefully we should get that kind of large crystalline structure in the background. And again, what we're seeing here across here is only a couple of millimeters, if that, in width. So, as Greg Wallace would say, let's fire up, take the shots. Oh, for some reason we are not shooting. There we go. Perfect stuff. Now I can already see that this is giving us a really interesting shot here. So let's just bring that up and have a quick look at it. There we go. So this is our crystal. This is our F11 crystal. And we've only got to look at that to see how incredibly detailed that is. And I said geeky because it's very sort of Superman's Fortress of Solitude kind of thing. If you just heard a little bang, that's my studio's humidity and thermometer meter that just fell on me. It's given up after the incredibly hot summer that we had. So there we go. So this is our single shot. Remember, this is not a high res shot either. This is literally a normal shot. Okay, so that's pushing the limits of getting down to pixels. So if we watch this all the way out, how fantastic is that? Now, what would be even more fantastic is if we could get this in focus as well as that in focus. So we're going to go ahead and close that down. We're going to do some focus stacking on here. And it's really nice and easy through OM Capture. Okay, so all we're going to do is we're going to come over to the BKT option at the bottom there. We're going to click on that and we're going to come into focus stacking in camera. This is going to give us a quick final result. It's like instant gratification from focus stacking. That's what we're going to get. So we're going to turn that on. we're going to take the full 15 images in camera that we can do, and we're going to set the focus differential at about 4. And hopefully that should be enough. Now, the focus differential is simply the spacing between each place the camera decides to focus through the depth of the image, okay? So 4 are fairly narrow. 10 would be big old jumps through the distance if you've got more to cover. But ultimately, the rule is the more images you're taking, the narrower the differential will become. Because if you're taking more images, it's likely that each one of them has a super narrow depth of field, okay? So that's all happy, that's on, and we're going to click close. Now, because we've put bracketing on, that's turned yellow, and we've also got this lovely yellow box here. This yellow box is a framing assistant to signify that our final image will be cropped all the way around the edges by 7%. So we're going to get a crop of 7%. So we're going to keep everything that we want in that little square there. We need to find an initial focus point that's about 40% into the depth of the subject. So let me find the nearest point that I want to focus on. So let's come all the way back. I don't want to focus on that one. I want something soft in the foreground. So I think the nearest thing I want to focus on, yeah, is probably about here. I might just come a bit closer to me just to start it off somewhere about that. And I'm hoping about there. It will take a few images closer towards me and then the rest further back, and I'm hoping that's going to hit that massive structure there. Now, if it doesn't matter, because we're not shooting film. We can have another go. Now, the problem is with this, and you have to be aware of this, is that my flash has now been put into manual automatically because you can't use TTL flash with bracketing. But because we took this shot earlier and the flash knew what it needed through TTL, it should have remembered that power. So fingers crossed we get that power. But let's go ahead and start those shots off and press go. Now, you're not going to see anything. I can see all this happening on the back of the camera and it looks great. And the flashes are all going off. Once that's finished, it's going to curate them all and give me the final one up here, which will give us a quick idea of what we got. There, looks fantastic. So if we want to look at this properly, I'm going to go ahead and drag it out of the folder. So we will then open this up. And there we go. So this is our extended focus stacked image. And it's fantastic. Look at this. We've got all this going on at the bottom there. Look at all this stuff that crystal collects whilst being sat in my Billingham bag on my travels, showing people how macro lenses work. And then we've got all that up to the top there as well, which is absolutely beautiful. We've got this really lovely out of focus foreground. And if we wanted to create a more in focus foreground, we could probably do it with stacking in camera. In fact, let's have a go. But we would likely probably need to go to bracketing because 15 images is the limit. Why don't we go ahead and see if we can't get this up to F16? We'll really push the barriers on that one. And we'll come in and focus as close as we can. Okay, so that's as close as we can. I definitely don't think we're going to make all of it, but we're going to try by starting here. I'm going to change the differential on bracketing. So I want some slightly bigger steps, maybe go to 6. But if the differential is too big and the depth of field is too narrow, then we'll get blurred lines in between each shot. But we'll give this a go and see exactly where we get. So obviously it's flashing away now, and it's super quick with the flash, providing you keep your batteries in good shape and you're using a really nice quality flash. The FL700WR is an excellent quality flash. And if you'd like to order one, I'm sure you can go pop down to Campkins or give them a call and they'll be able to let you know if one's available. Now, so 2 things have happened. One is we've now actually got more depth of field in the front than the back because we started too far forwards. We could always change that. But you'll notice it's also a little bit darker. So remember I said that my flash has gone into manual. So I needed to up the power a little bit on the flash. So 2 things we're going to do now. We're going to go back to that screen. I am going to up the power by a stop-ish. And then we're going to try and, oops, let me just come out of here. Then we're going to try and focus a little bit further into the image and see if that makes a bit of a difference on our, about there. Let's try and take those shots again. So looking at the back of the camera, the flash power now seems pretty good. And it does seem to have gone from front to back quite well. Let's see if that pans out. And then we'll go from there. Now, obviously, this is taking a little bit longer because we've been doing quite a lot of flashing. So my batteries are starting to deplete. They weren't 100% charged when we started anyway. So there we go. Much better. Let's pull in that final image there. There we go. So this has given us the foreground, it's given us the midground, and it's given us the main structure that we wanted, and kept all that background lovely and isolated, lovely and out of focus. So that's worked really quite well. And we've still got that lovely, fantastic detail in each one. Now, there's the other thing that we could do, obviously, and that is a high resolution shot. So if we turn bracketing off, close it, and then turn, oh yeah, sorry, my mistake. We've got to go into there, turn focus stacking off, and then we can try a single shot, but with high res mode on. Now, obviously, we've got high res tripod or high res handheld. Now, you can't use flash with handheld, and we are on a tripod, so we're going to select tripod. It's made some changes across here for me. And then all I need to do is give it a focal point. Now, I think we are going to go back to focusing on that larger structure at the back. Let's just go in gently and find where we want to be. Use our depth of field preview to check that we're going to get what we want to get. I want to go a little bit more. Or have I gone a bit too far there? Might be it. I've gone a little bit too far in, so let's just come back a little bit. There we go. So flash should work the same. It can't be in TTL anyway. It's going to take a single shot, but it's a gathering of I think it's up to 16 movements of the sensor. We're not going to get more depth of field. We're simply going to get more resolution. So why don't I actually just turn that off for a second? Let's just take a normal shot so that we can compare that. So normal shot with flash. That's going to pop up just there. Perfect stuff. That's giving us, yeah, that's about the right place. And we'll try and compare this now. Tripod shot and let it go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm counting the flashes for you there. So 8-ish, 9. I think that might be it. Yeah, there we go. So let's see if we can bring in these two. I'm just going to make sure I pull out the right ones for you so that it's a proper comparison. JPEG, yeah, cool. Okay, so this one is going to be your normal shot. There we go, quite nice. Let's just look. Looks pretty good. And then this one is your high res shot. So we're getting to go in deeper and deeper before we start to see that kind of pixelation at the edges, which is really, really nice. And like I said, this whole thing here is just a couple of millimeters across, which is really, really fantastic. Loads and loads of detail, and just an example of what the macro lens can do. Now, obviously, this is simply shooting something that doesn't move. Quite honest with you, I have a ghost mantis nymph downstairs that was a little bit jumpy this morning, so that's the reason why we're shooting something that's not moving. But of course, you can go out there into nature non-invasively, using the 90mm fantastic focal length to capture dragonflies and butterflies from a distance, or you can get right on top of tiny things like springtails and stuff like that, where you can focus sort of 6mm across. Oh, there we go. There's me again. So you can sort of focus 6 centimeters away, sorry, 6.7 centimeters away on tiny, tiny little things, really, really close up, or 6 feet away on butterflies and dragonflies. So that's really, really cool. Now, of course, one of the best ways to kind of get to grips with this kind of thing is to come and handle it for yourself. You can either go into Capkins in Cambridge, you can go into the store on any day, talk to the team in there, and they'll be able to help you out, or you can come and see us either at the shop takeover on Friday this week. So on Friday, I'll be in there from 10 till 4 with all the kit. You can come and ask me any questions, have a go with any of the lenses, or of course, come and see everybody that's going to attend the show on the Saturday. Loads and loads of stuff going on. Feel free to come in and take part. Make sure you register for your place. If you've got any queries at all, you can call Campkins and see exactly what's going on. So let me take that away. tech issues aside, I've got 3 big red exclamation marks here to see that our stream is only going out into one place. But we will share the rest of it later on. We can pretend that it was pre-recorded. And then you can come and see me on Friday or Saturday in the shop. Come and see everybody else that's doing live streams this week, and have a great time and make the most out of Cambridge Photography show and Cambridge Photography in Autumn week and show. But for now, I'm going to close down my live stream. I'm going to say thank you very much. I would do a little countdown and go out, but it's just simply going to be that is the end. And I hope to see you in real life over the next couple of days over in Cambridge. So thanks for watching and take care. Bye for now.